Okay, so you can see my screen?
I can.
Okay. And it's here. So, Jim, do you know my background by any chance? Is that
I probably do, but I don't recall. So when you tell me, I might remember.
okay? I'm going to give you my background just really quick, just because I think it's extremely important to this conversation. I'm going to bring up this right here. I've been in the automotive industry for almost 15 years, but my entire career, Jim, has been internet sales and BDC. If you take a look at, here's my background. I'll start with me as a dealership. I'm a 30 car guy. I used to work for Weiss Slater Lincoln Mercury Mazda in New Jersey. 30 cars at a small store. Me and another guy did like literally 60% of the entire dealership's business. Then I got scooped up to a dealer group where I took a store doing maybe 25 units on the internet to 110 units on the internet called Pine Belt Automotive, which is basically a dealer group in New Jersey in Toms River. Worked there a couple of years. I went to Highline for 6 months. I thought that I could make more money selling Porsches. I actually made more money at the Nissan Kia dealership than I did at the Porsche dealership. So I went back. I stayed there for another year, and then I went to my last dealership, was Cherry Hill Nissan, #1 Nissan in the region, Northeast region of the United States. We were doing over 320, 350 at a single point Nissan store, and I was doing about 100 of those cars out of the internet. Mind you, I left the dealership world 9 years ago, and I've been the CEO of Dealer Synergy. And if you take a look at my screen, I've spoken to over 90 NAD and NCM 20 groups. I've been an NADA convention speaker, one of the highest rated speakers 3 years in a row at NADA. I have my own 20 group, which is your organization is part of. They're just part of the 20 group itself. I've been a speaker for J.D. Power. Matter of fact, this Friday, I'm the keynote speaker for the Massachusetts State Dealers Association. I work with a ton of dealer associations like the Detroit Dealer Association, Atlanta, the New York, etc. So I write for 13 different national magazines, and I don't want to go on, but my point is if you look at all this stuff here, I'm in the NSA, the National Speakers Association, and what I'm most proud of is that I'm a Franklin Covey trainer. Me and my wife are the only people in the entire automotive industry that's officially partnered with this, Dr. Covey. I know he passed away, but are you familiar with Dr. Stephen Covey?
Yes.
That's me, my wife, and him right there. And we are actually trainers in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So this is my resume, and here are my success stories. My company officially has more nationally successful internet and BDCs than any other company on the planet. That's including billion-dollar companies like like ADP, Reynolds, etc. These are all covers of magazines. This is not Photoshop, Jim. So the most recent ones, I had 2 dealerships in September that were on 2 different magazines. This is a single-point Chevy dealership. We took from 30 cars to over 100, and they were featured in Auto Dealer Monthly magazine. And the same month, on the cover of Auto Success magazine, we had a Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealership in Jackson, Tennessee. We took from 25 to 95 units, and the internet director just got promoted to the general sales manager of the dealership. And if you look at these covers, and this is how I told you I'm the keynote speaker for the Massachusetts State Association. How I did that is that the president of the Massachusetts State Association is one of my former clients right here, Mr. Scott Doobie, president of Bill Doobie Hyundai. So the reason why I'm going through all this is I am not selling you anything at all, no breadcrumbs, no timeshare pitches. I'm just selling you on my credibility that I am a beast at what I do. I work with, my clients are not just, dealerships. 80% of my clients are dealerships, and I'd say about 20% of my clients are vendors. Like AutoVitel is a publicly traded company. They paid me about $10,000 to speak for 4 hours. Auto Traders hired me to train their national big accounts, their major accounts. Dealerskins, Interactive Financial, these major internet technology companies have hired me to basically train them on how to engage and support and make dealerships successful. So now with that all said, do you have any questions about my 15 years in automotive internet sales?
No.
All right, so now the reason why I'm saying this is that I've got some major concerns, sir, okay? First of all, not that it matters, and they didn't pay me $1, but I got to tell you, you've got 2 amazing people that I know of. I don't know anybody else, but the 2 people that I speak to are mostly Lori and then Charity. Now, I know Lori doesn't have car, dealership experience, before she came to you, And I know that, you know, Charity's been in the industry for like 20 years, but these girls are doing phenomenal with the situation. I know this is blurry, but I'm looking at your March and your April numbers here. This is a video. I'm going to yeah, it's too small for me to see, so I'm going to just try to read what I see here. In March, it shows that you guys had, and this is for the, you know, the Kia dealership, for Capra Kia is on this side and Bulldog Kia is on this side. So I'm only going to talk about Capra Kia for a second. You had a total of 1,150 fresh leads in March, and you had over, what do you call it, 2,000 leads in, I'm sorry, 1,800 leads in April. Now, here's the difference. You have about 5,487 phone calls in April and 3,500 phone calls in March. But if you look at the units sold, out of the 1,150 leads, you only sold 52 cars. Out of the 1,800 leads that you had in April, you only sold 40 cars. Now, I want to explain something to you. I don't know if anybody's ever explained this to you, but I'm going to bring up a Word document here, and there's something called the residual flow factor. What the residual flow factor means is, let's say you have 1,000 leads in the month of, I don't know, we're in June. So
Yeah, I'm familiar with how it works.
Okay, so there's a carryover. So there's a carryover leads. So when you look at these numbers that are here, okay, when you're selling 52 cars, it's not 52 out of 1,150 leads. Our estimation is off a 90-day residual flow, you're closer to 2,000 leads. So in my opinion, you have a minimum. If I'm being conservative, sir, you have, if you don't change your lead sources or anything or spend any more money other than restructuring your HR, you have at least 50 to 70 units that are just being left on the table every single month.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, Sean.
Okay, good. And here's how I'm going to show you how one of my single point stores are. Okay, here's the math that I'm going to put into this. Let me just get rid of this.
Could I interrupt you for just a second?
Absolutely.
And I don't have the VIN solutions up or any of that stuff, so I'm just using your lead data. But so I don't know if those numbers are deduped, and I also don't know if the numbers that you're looking at have the trade-in marketplace leads in there. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe you know, we're a trade-in marketplace buying center.
Yes.
So that could amount for I don't know, 500 leads or something.
256.
I'm sorry.
256 is the number. I worked it out. Yeah, I worked it out with Lori. You're absolutely correct. That number that I gave you did not reflect that. That's why I didn't say that you should have 200 cars sold. Right. You're absolutely correct. That did include about 256 trade-in marketplace leads. I do count duplicates and bogus leads because what I'm looking for, here's the unicorn that we're trying to chase. We're looking for a 10% closing ratio between, the algorithm is between fresh to total. So what I mean by that is if you have 1,000, you have 1,100. So if you had 1,100 fresh leads, you know, and then you had a residual flow factor of another 800, right, which is a total of, let's just say, 1,900. So anywhere from 110 to 190 deals is the theoretical answer. Follow me on this. So again, you know, even if you backed out, you know, the 300, let's say you backed out 400 from here, okay, that's still 700 plus another 800. In my opinion, you have about a true 1,400 to 1,500 total leads. That's taking out your duplicates, and that's also taking out your trade and marketplace. Do you see what I'm saying? And even if I was crazy, brother, even if I was crazy and it was only 1,100 opportunities after everything's done, that's still 110 cars sold versus 50. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I have spent quite a bit of time with Charity on this. As I'm sure you know, we have a new GM in the store who does not have a great deal of experience, but I think will do just fine. But I think, and I've shared this with them, part of what they need to do is change the way that Charity is managing the internet. And I'm sure you're going to give me some great advice. But when we look at the numbers there versus the numbers at our Hyundai store, we've had higher closing percentages at Hyundai, but I think that's because Reggie manages the department, where Charity runs the department, and she is doing a lot of these things herself, and she's given every salesman gets the opportunity to get a lead, which I wouldn't do. A guy who's closing below my 10% threshold, if that's what I'm looking for, if that's his 90-day average, he wouldn't get any leads unless we did some remedial class, and then we gave him a short-term window to see if he changed, that he's capable or competent to handle those leads, because we have a team of people at the Hyundai store that handle the leads, and we've been kind of everybody gets a lead as in rotation at the Kia store, but there you've got Charity who's making calls for the sales guys and basically doing their job for them, versus Reggie who manages the guys, and if they don't do their job, he kicks them off of the internet team. So it's two totally different systems, within the same dealer group, which I've allowed them to run that way. But I've recommended to Charity and to Dwayne, who's the GM of the store, that they really should be building it from the model that Reggie has, and everybody shouldn't be able to get an internet lead. So that's kind of my theory or philosophy, but you're welcome to share your own.
Yeah, I would like to just give you my version of what I think would be a really good fit. And again, thank you very much for allowing both Charity and Lori to be part of the Internet Sales 20 groups. They've actually, been able to meet with dealer principals and general managers, not just my clients, of course. I mean, like legitimately part of the 20 group that are not Dealer Synergy clients, they're just part of the 20 group. And one of the things that I have to say that it's worked profoundly successful for, me, my network of dealers, is I don't believe in a BDC personally. I don't like BDC reps. I don't even like the acronym because it's been such abused in this industry. But I want to just show you on paper something. I'm on the JD Power Internet Roundtable, and Jim, the hardest part of this whole internet sale is just getting the body on the phone. Because if you look at my screen, JD Power says that there's only an 11 to 14% connection ratio on the phones. So what happens is, I just like you to think about something. You're the dealer. You don't have to do anything. Just since you're on the phone with me, I just want to kind of give you my spin on something here. There's 8 ways that a salesperson, and I'm not being ADD, I'm going to show you something relevant here.
A lot of times people might
There's
say
8 ways that a salesperson can sell an automobile. Remember I told you I work with the associations? The majority of the stuff that I do with the Detroit Dealer Associations and the other associations, believe it or not, is training salespeople and sales managers. This is a webinar that I did for about 500 dealers, and it's got like 3,700 views. This is a grid that I came up with. A salesperson has 8 ways to sell an automobile. This is my formula as a 30-car person. I don't expect everybody to do 30 cars, but if you look at it, there's 8 ways: beatbacks, walk-ins, phone-ups, internet service, previous referrals, and prospecting. Unfortunately, most salespeople don't hit but maybe 3 or 4 out of the 8 opportunities. So the challenge is if you have a salesperson that is trying to turn around and take, take fresh ups, work their beatbacks, handle phone ups and internet ups when there's a 45 to 90-day window period, try to get service conversions, work their previous customers, work referrals, and, by the way, bring some prospecting, it gets a little bit difficult. And when you add into the relevancy of your situation, sir, you've got a crap load of leads, and that's awesome. But when you have that many leads, it's even if you had 30 salespeople for just the Kia store, it's kind of cumbersome. So here's just a suggestion. Do it that will, but here's a suggestion. The dealerships that made on the covers of the magazines for immediate results, not 6 months, I'm talking about 30 to 60 days turnaround, is that they have appointment setters, not BDC reps, not telemarketers, but phone sales professionals. They don't do product presentation, demo drive, delivery, but they're trained in outbound phone call process, inbound phone call process, escalation, how to qualify the prospect, how to identify wants, wishes, expectations, how to meet them, how to articulate what your dealer group's value package proposition is, what is different about you and better than the competition. So here's the model. Each appointment setter makes or takes 120 calls. That might sound like a lot, but it's not, because if you look at this number here, out of the 120 make or take phone calls in a day per rep, you only have an 11 to 14% connection ratio, which means they're going to connect with about 14 to 16.8 people on the phones. They're going to convert 25% into appointments, which is going to be roughly 25 to 33%, I should say, appointments, which is roughly 4 to 6 appointments in a day. So I'm going to repeat that. One appointment setter. So the model that you saw for the single point Chevy dealership in Indiana, just for an example, they had 5 appointment setters times 120 calls in a day equals obviously 600 calls in a day times 5 working days equals 3,000 calls a week times 4.3 weeks in a month equals 12,900 calls. If you look, this is really important. When I was looking at your numbers right here, when I was looking at this, your phone call count was only in the 3,000 in March and 5,000 in April. You got to realize the more people you call, the more people you get on the phone. The more people you get on the phone, the more appointments you make. The more appointments you make, the more appointments show. More appointments show, more people sell. It's truly a cause and effect. The internet department is predominantly, after 15 years doing this, is predominantly a phone sale. So again, the only way that you're going to be able to jump from your current 3,000 or 5,000 phone calls to the 10, 12, 15,000 phone calls a month that you should do is if you had, in my opinion, not a large team, but a small dedicated team of people that are predominantly focused on making the phone calls. And the reason why I say segregated because they're only going to connect with 11 to 14%. Do you see what I'm saying? So again, you theoretically can farm it out like air traffic control cop to your floor, but they're only going to have an 11 to 14% connection ratio. I'm a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company myself. Even me, with all this internet experience, if I dial the phones, I'm not special. I'm only going to connect, Sean Bradley's only going to connect with 11 to 14% of the people. So what you want to do is you don't want to have a cause, you don't want to have a stop and go. Because what is happening right now, and this is what, talking to Lori for the last several months and, Charity, is that when the salespeople are doing their job, they're doing the product presentation, demo drive, and delivery, those leads are just sitting stagnant. So this is just a theoretical. If you had, let's just say, 4 or 5 full-time appointment setters in shifts from 9 to 6 and 11 to 8, they're not doing unsold showroom traffic, they're not doing BDC, they're not doing service, they're not doing reception. All they're doing from the second they walk in to the second that they go, they're just pounding the phones. Now, I've got dealerships that when we set up the CRMs, we set it up to maximize on their time. So we actually break down buckets in the CRM that when the coordinator comes in, the appointment setter comes in, they're going to handle the fresh leads. After the fresh leads, they're going to handle the responses. After they handle the responses, they're going to go to leads that are 31 days or less with the phone number and some type of verbal contact. After they get through that folder or bucket, they're going to go to leads that are 31 days or less with the phone number and no verbal contact. After that bucket, the final bucket is leads 32 to day 90. So we create like almost like an assembly line of prioritized leads that they should engage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And by the way, one of my partners in one of my companies is here. Peter Martin. He said that you're on his program. Yes, Keffer Hyundai is one of them. Yeah. I got Peter Martin. He said that your company is signed up to one of his products, had nothing to do with me, called Pot of Gold for the data mining. And you guys are rocking. You guys did $116,000 in service last month, sold 7 units last month off of the program.
Peter, what store, what is it that you're doing, Pot of Gold? Is that
Jim, it's Dwayne's store.
Yeah, I know, but Dwayne is using Tega with service turn, so I'm not sure what Pot of Gold is. But if it's Dwayne, so he's probably paying 2 people to do the same thing.
Actually, no, because the one that other program is marketing to your existing customers. We're marketing to the unsold internet prospects that he has in the store. And one of the benefits was because we'd worked with him in the past, I was able, because I kept all of his data. I actually had his unsold leads from like 8 years ago. So I was able to add like an extra 5,000 records into his prospect database. So the only people I'm marketing to for him are his unsold internet leads, but we're also marketing to them for service. So that's where the difference comes with what we're doing for him. We're doing marketing for service, but we've got a fairly sizable database. We're working the fresh stuff plus all the very old stuff.
Real quick,
Okay.
real quick, Jim. Peter owns his own company called Cactus Sky. I own a video production studio, and I have a pretty big office. Peter actually we own a training company separate from Dealer Synergy called Video On Demand Training. It's automotive digital training. So he's actually in my office. Just flew in, and he happened to hear the word Kefir, and he came back into my office. So no, what he does, again, it's not data mining to your current or past customers. What his software does, it's all the leads, all the 1,100 leads that you guys have for the Kia, for example. His software basically engages people that haven't purchased a vehicle yet.
I get that. Here's the challenge that I have, Sean. We have Lori, and Lori's our CRM director, if you want to call it that. And so she should be working with the GMs to develop strategies and implement campaigns that are designed to sell our unsold prospects. And in fact, our CRM, like every other CRM on the planet, already has campaigns and stuff that are automated that send somebody this email or that email at this many weeks or this many days. And so effectively, to do what you're talking about, we would need to get rid of our own system and stop trying to sell cars because we would acknowledge that we suck at it and use a different system because what we would have in place would be duplicating the efforts like what Peter is doing, and we would take the sales guys out of all of their follow-up and just have somebody who's worth a shit do their follow-up because we would acknowledge that they stink and they're always going to stink. And
no, I'm not. I'm a Franklin Covey person. I apologize for interjecting, but no, I don't think that they stink at all. What I'm saying is that there's 8 main ways that a salesperson could sell cars. Again, from the prospecting, referrals, all that stuff. So if they were allowed to have time to work their own database, to work unsold showroom traffic, to work the service drive and do all that stuff, and yeah, actually have not a lot, but a couple people that all they're doing is setting internet appointments because you have so many leads. Again, I'm not saying.
And I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. And if Dwayne, the GM, wants to try to hire people to answer the phones, I'm very open and I think very aggressive, and I try to be progressive to say, hey, I'll try most anything. As you said, this is a 60-day, you can tell if it works kind of approach. Shit, I'll try 90 days. But I don't go in and tell the GM this is what you have to do. I don't run the stores that way. I try to get people in Lori's position who can coach the GMs, build a relationship, and get them to try stuff, which has so far not worked because she's got a very strong personality and she's pissed a lot of them off. So she does lots of other stuff and basically provides me measurements, which is sort of a defensive, approach to doing business, where I'd love to be more offensive and try some of these things. But if I go in and I start doing it, then the GMs and the sales managers aren't bought into the plan. I have additional campaigns that are already set to run. So then I have duplication of efforts, and we're barraging the customers with emails more so than we already are, because again, that's what I'd like her to be doing in that position, is coordinating with the GMs to make sure there's an effective flow of communications going out to our owner base and our unsold prospects, and that we're not sending 3 urgency email type messages in 2 days.
I agree.
Which sometimes we do. And so, from my standpoint, that type of system can be very effective. I know Rick and Rita Case run giant, call centers, and the guy up with the Honda store up in New York or New Jersey, that's Paragon, he does the same thing with Force 10 or whatever his marketing.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing. The thing is, to make a system like that work, you have to have 200 plus units minimum, because otherwise in order to keep your efficiency where it needs to be, if your goal is profitability, not just selling cars, then you have to take some of the money that would otherwise be either in supervision or sales comp, and you have to move it over here to pay these other salary and wage people, because I've already got 3 sales managers, and then I have a charity. Well, what I should have is 1 sales manager for every 60 deals. So when we look and say, hey, our people don't have time to do these things, it's because they're not efficient and they're not doing all the stuff they could be doing and getting organized. I think we have a very good team in there at Kia, but they need to get a lot more efficient. And as far as the sales guys not having time to do all their stuff, that would just tend to me to be an indicator that we don't have enough salespeople, because the sales manager or the person in charity's position should be managing each salesperson to make sure that they're farming each one of those fields of potential business every day and every week, and they're going over their CRM data with those people every day. And then, let's face it, not everybody is going to be fantastic on the telephone, so not everybody's going to be a 30-car guy, but they should be able to be a 10, 15, or 20-car person based on the number of those buckets that they're certified in and that they're able to work with. And that would be Charity's job. She's supposed to manage those people as a sales manager. She's not supposed to be the person making telephone calls to call the people and sell the cars. That's what she's doing. She's doing their job for them. So our closing ratio sucks because our salespeople aren't getting any better because she's doing their job for them. And then what your approach would be to hire more people to do their job for them, and then let them have more time to do the other stuff, which they're not going to do. They're going to just then farm off or live off or leech off the other work that we're already doing for them. And the reason I know that I'm right is that Stephen, who was the sales GSM before the current crew that we have in there, used to manage the guys on a daily basis, and if they didn't do a good job on email leads, he'd take them off. And when Stephen left, I brought him down to the Volkswagen store to manage VW as the GM. I promoted him. Our sales dropped in half immediately with all the same people except for Stephen, because we stopped managing the same way that we were managing before. And that it was just because the salespeople haven't been developing the skills. So I'm okay with doing it that way, and I would, doesn't matter what I believe, I'll go with what works. And if you guys can convince, you and Charity can convince Dwayne to spend the money, I'll take a flyer for 90 days and say, no problem, I'll do it, and let's see how it works. But then I'm going to have to start packing the car deals to compensate for the cost of the phone call people, so that I'm covering myself on the other side. And that may be more information than what you needed, but at the end of the day, I guess Lori wanted you to talk to me so that, because she thinks this would be a better way than the way we're currently doing it. And I'll try it, but it's not my decision. I won't make that decision unilaterally, because I don't run the stores like Rick Case or the other guys do. I'm running a group of stores, and if the GMs do a good job, I'll take them and invest in them and let them buy their own store and buy me out 100%, and then they have multi-million-dollar stores, businesses of their own. And there aren't a lot of guys that do that, but in order to do that, I have to make sure that I have guys that are entrepreneurial, and before I go invest $3.5 million in a store and give them the chance to change their life forever, I want to be able to find out if they know how to think, not just follow my direction. Does that make sense?
Total sense. I respect that. I totally understand. My goal, honestly, was altruistic gesture to just try to I'm looking at the data, and I just wanted to give you a different perspective. I hear where you're coming from. I guess the next step is I'd love to be able to speak to the GM, with or without Lori.
How about if I have him call you? I'll get you that far. If he buys into it and wants to try something, Yeah, as long as he's willing to get off of it in 90 days. If he's not at, you know, the 175 or 200 cars, then no problem. I'll try most anything once and lots of stuff twice. So I'll be happy to have Dwayne call you if you give me the best number. And then, you know, if he's game and he wants to try it, that's great. But you and I are in agreement in terms of what the end result should be. We
Absolutely.
should be selling 200 cars.
I agree without a doubt. They definitely should be able to sell that. But again, you have enough leads. I just don't think that the HR is infrastructurally put in place the right way. That's it.
I agree with that, and we would probably structure it a little differently. But I have other stores that are selling 300 cars, so I know that methodology that I'm talking about will work. And I also know other guys that do it the way you're talking about that work as well. So there's more than one right, I think, in this case. But you know, because Dwayne is relatively inexperienced as a GM, I wouldn't be opposed to him trying this, because it would sort of prop him up if we had some training and some methodology, because I am still trying to develop a phone training that would go through all of the stores, so that we would have a consistent way that we're doing the phone training that I would hope then that all of the GMs would want to adopt. But this would be an alternate approach that we could study. And if you'll give me your best number, I'll have him give you a call.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Jim. And one last thing before I do, I concur. I want to make this really clear. I by no means think that my way is the only way to do things. I just want to share with you what's had the most success for me over the last 15 years in internet sales and BDC is this. But I definitely know dealerships that have the craziest models, not crazy and bad, it's just different. But I see huge opportunity at your store, and I appreciate you forwarding my phone number to your GM. The phone number is, you ready, 267
Right.
319
Okay.
6776.
6776. Good enough, Sean. It was great talking to you. I appreciate the help.
No, I appreciate your time and openness. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Take care.
Take care.